I appreciate your time, and let me just share my screen with you. Okay, so this talk today is called Observations from a Green Social Work Placement, Reframing the Narrative of Oakey Coal Action Alliance. Now, before I start today, I would like to, sorry, this is the first time I've presented online, so I do apologise. There probably will be a few things.
That's okay. We're not seeing your shared screen at the moment, Catrina.
Oh.
That again.
Is that showing up now?
Yep, perfect.
Fantastic.
You're away.
So as I said, my talk today is titled Observations from a Green Social Work Placement, Reframing the Narrative of Oakey Coal Action Alliance. Now, it's going to, look, I won't share my slides today, or I'll slide them in between talking. I'm not figuring that out. So before I start, I'd just like to acknowledge the Garabal and Jowrell peoples whose land I'm on today. I would also like to acknowledge the members of the Oakey Coal Action Alliance, some of who are listening in today. The generosity in allowing me into their space and sharing their stories with me is greatly appreciated. Thank you so much. So I'm a first year Masters of Social Work student. I'm 3 weeks out from completing my first placement. Typically, most social work student placements happen in settings with counselling or casework. Common placement includes hospitals, NDIS organisations, domestic violence or child protective services. Finding a placement in community development is rare. Being allocated a placement that's in a field that's newly emerging is even rarer. So when I was placed with a community organisation as a green social worker, it provided an opportunity that was challenging and full of potential. Since July, I have been working with the Darling Downs Environment Council, or DDEC. DDEC is an organisation whose purpose is to provide support and advocacy for community groups. For community groups, sorry, just give me a second. For community groups that are with community groups who are participating in protective environmental actions. Since July, I have worked closely with the community organiser Paul King. When I first met Paul, I asked if there were any projects which I may be able to get involved in. Without hesitation, Paul suggested that I connect with the group called Oakey Coal Action Alliance. Paul stated that this was an incredible collection of people with some incredible stories. I don't want to ruin the surprise, but spoiler, he was right. So OCAA is a group of 60 farmers living in and around Oakey. Show you. So Oakey is a small country town located a 2-hour drive west of Brisbane. OCAA formed with the focus of resisting the expansion of the new Acland mine. The mining activities of New Hope had already had a detrimental effect on local farmers. This included loss of water, availability, disruptions caused by excessive noise and poor health in animals and humans. The expanded mine was to consume the town of Acland, which is 24 kilometres northwest of Oakey. The only resident left in Acland is Glenn Butel. He's a pretty impressive man, as you'll hear later. If New Hope had gotten their way, the township of Acland would already be transformed into a giant cut mining pit, but thanks to the actions of OCAA, Acland remains. And she's here. Hello. Getting to know the people of OCAA has been an incredible experience. As a social work student developing a practice framework, I needed to link this experience. You want to be here with me?
I don't want.
Okay. Getting to know, you've got to be quiet though, Lucy. Sorry. Getting to know the people of OCAA has been an incredible experience. As a social work student developing practice framework, I needed to link this experience to practice with theoretical foundation so that I could apply it to future practice. This is where green social work comes in. Now, to quote one of my supervisors, Andrew Nicholson, who in a presentation to the Australian Association of Social Workers, or ASW, stated, green or eco-social work practice is the product of mainstream social work moving towards recognition that physical environmental factors, such as climate change, is one of the important systems of influence determining client wellbeing and challenges. In 2019, the AASW declared a climate emergency, mandating members to incorporate a green social work lens into their practice. The AASW Code of Ethics, published in 2010, has the value of social justice. So under that value, social workers are tasked to promote the protection of the natural environment as inherent to social wellbeing. Valuing the impact that the environment has on wellbeing is not new. What is emerging within green social work is an increased conscious consideration of how changes to the environment impacts on individuals and communities. In the interactions I had with members of OCAA, I was able to observe how changes to their environment impacted on their overall wellbeing. Incorporating green social work into practice means coupling it with established practice methods. Narrative therapy is a tool utilised by social workers that examines the way an individual tells a story. How a story is told reveals the individual's internal processes. The way an individual tells a story. How a story is told reveals the individual's internal processes. Sorry, give me a second. Hey, Lucy. So you got to be quiet, okay? I'm trying to talk. Or do you want? Yeah. Okay. The information or events highlight. Sorry. Yeah. Can you read? The information or events highlight. Lucy, can you please go get my phone? Sorry about this. Yes.
That's okay. You're doing great. And do you want to take a minute or so?
Can I? Just one moment. Yep. Yeah. Thank you. Yes. Thank you so much.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I think we can all sympathise with Catrina there, and I think it would help her if we just gave her a minute or so to attend to Lucy and settle her a bit, but she's doing a great job. So I hope that's okay with everyone. I think we've got sufficient time in the session today.
Thank you so much for your understanding.
No problems, Catrina. Carry on when you're ready.
Of course, she was happy half an hour before I was doing this. They know, kids know, they're wise. I'm sure all the parents out there know this. Okay, so incorporating green social work into practice means coupling it with established practice methods. Narrative therapy is a tool used by social workers that examines the way an individual tells a story. How a story is told reveals the individual's internal processes. The information or events highlighted disclose value systems and interpretation of events. Challenging how a story is told and helping a client reframe it can assist in healing and/or empowerment. So the narrative of New Hope versus OCAA is easily found within the media and political discussions. My original aim for the talk today was to examine the two narratives and pit them against each other. However, this has been done 1,000 times already. Also, the narrative approach incorporates a postmodern philosophy, accepting that individuals create their realities based on the information they possess. The narrative held by the members of OCAA incorporates the hope that what they are doing is for a better future. So I don't feel that it is necessary to challenge their personal narrative. What I would like to do today is to challenge the narrative which has been created through the media and political discourses regarding the actions of OCA. So a consistent narrative that surrounds OCA members is that they are a group of greenie activists who hate miners, want to take their jobs and destroy the township of Oakey. This simplified version reduces this complex group of people into a one-dimensional enemy. Let me challenge this narrative by introducing you to some of the members of OCAs. So I am going to share my screen with you now because I've got some photos of these wonderful people. That I want to be able to show you. So look, I'm going to say I'm a social work student, so technology is not my strong point. We're allowed. So this is Aileen. The first time I met Aileen was at an OCA meeting. She is fierce, she is kind, and she's an alpaca farmer, which it's the coolest thing. This is Sid Plant. Sid is a climate change, he's a climate changeologist. So he has presented this talk called Climate Change in a Nutshell. I think Marilyn, his wife, is online today, so she can correct me if that's wrong. And Sid has done this talk. He'll do this talk to 2 people or to hundreds of people. He has done this talk hundreds of times. He is really passionate about helping people understand the implications and how climate change occurs. He has taught me a lot through this. I also had, oh, I don't know where he's gone. So one of the other farmers I wanted to talk about was David. He is an incredible man. I had the opportunity to go out to his farm with my daughter and a group of other farmers, and the way he talks about and he interacts with his cattle, his brain. I wish I could remember what he remembers. He is an incredible man. So each member of OCA has a different motivation for being committed to the resistance. Now there's about 60 farmers involved in OCA. Many are wanting to preserve the land for future generations. They want to ensure that there is good farming land left for future generations. They are individuals who are banded together to actively engage with their rights as citizens in a democratic society. For that alone, I think they should be celebrated. One of the questions I asked the members of OCA is, why do you persist in this fight? The response I got was a collective, what else are we going to do? This group is united in their resolve to do what they consider to be the right thing. The demonstration of integrity is to be admired. So the narrative I would like to present is that OCA is an example of what happens when people join together to fight for what they believed in. That is admirable. Now, one I would like to leave you with today is a quote from Glenn Butel. He is the last man standing in Acland. He grew up there. He is a geologist. I discovered the other day, takes beautiful photographs of the wildlife around. He has a deep care and appreciation for the land. He is what I would consider the custodian of the land around Acland. And in an ABC interview, Glenn Butel said, you can only really have the power to do what you can so that you can live with your own conscience. People's experience and who they are dictate what that might be. So I'd like to leave my talk there today and hopefully provided you with some inspiration.
Thank you, Catrina. That was a fantastic talk, and you overcame those challenges, as did Mark before you, like an absolute pro. And I can tell you that you've got a ton of fans on the chat section. Everyone is just full of admiration for you, and for Lucy, I should say, by the way. A few little suggestions in there about how to handle unruly children, but we perhaps won't go to them just now. So I'm just looking through the many comments to see if there's some questions for you, Catrina. Just bear with me. Mark has just made more of a comment, I think, which is that the link between environment, social well-being and social work practice is fantastic, and applying a narrative approach and making them real with those pictures that you shared is great. Can I perhaps just invite anybody else just to jump in with any questions they might have? If you've got some questions, you can just unmute and perhaps put your camera on if you like and ask questions. And I'll just check the WOVA app in the meantime.
Can I just say more of a comment than a question? A brilliant presentation, Catrina. You know, against the odds, they're juggling many responsibilities. I just want to say, you know, I've known about your work for some time, but that framing using narrative, because I think narrative is the absolute key, as one of the previous participants just said. I mean, we're in a world of contested narratives at the political level. We've got the state election here going on at the moment. You hear it all the time. But as far as the environment's concerned, you know, whether it's around coal mining, climate change generally, social inequality, it's a contest of stories in people's heads. And trying to get the right story out there and accepted by more people. So I think, you know, what the approach you're taking here is absolutely brilliant.
Thank you. I do hope that in the future, with moving green social work forward and bringing it into the wider, like, because, you know, one of the conversations we've had is about how is it applicable? And I think people work with, like, narrative therapy not only challenges the preconceived idea, but it helps people incorporate, like, people will learn from stories more quickly than they learn from, like, theoretical. So hopefully, hopefully the OCAA guys will let me work with them in the future to help share their stories, because I do think I really admire these people and what they've achieved.
Absolutely.
Yeah, just another comment, perhaps, if I could, Catrina. There was a talk yesterday in the session that I presented in by Emma Babbage that you might find particularly useful. She takes a similar approach with looking at story as narrative, and she looks at story and the narrative that can be ascertained from that story and considered it in the context of statutory interpretation, so particularly occupational health and safety. And relevantly to what you're looking at, I think she looks at whether or not occupational health and safety can be interpreted to extend to something something like well-being as opposed to just mental health. So it might be relevant for your work, actually.
That's fantastic, because I do think, the well-being is a big social work theme. So that would be, I'll go look that up. Thank you.
Yeah. Look, the only comment that I had, obviously I had some comments based on your abstract before you changed it today. So I have to scrap those comments and questions, but you spoke.
There's a question here from Mark.
Yes, hang on.
The people look down to earth. How do they respond to the radical green labels, which they are brushed? I was at, they don't consider, like, I think there's a big difference between, I don't know how to word this, because I don't want to speak on their behalf in a sense, but I don't think they see themselves as greenies as such. Like, greenies is a metro term, is the term for people who are in cities who aren't connected. So, like, even just the, you know, greenies, they don't consider themselves to be greenies, and I don't think that they're very connected to the land. I don't know how to, and I'm very hesitant to talk on that without, like, talk on their behalf, because, but what I have seen is I'd agree. I don't think they're not, I think there's a link between greenies and hippies, and they are not hippies. If that's, a poor explanation.
There's actually another question there, Catrina, in the chat. Have you personally learned anything from OCAA about social organisation?
Yes, definitely. I think that witnessing community development in the truest form at the grassroots levels takes time and a lot of work, a lot of talking. I've learnt there's a theory or approach called dialectal community development. It's where you sit and you talk and everybody has their say and it's all valued. It's a very democratic organisation. I think OCAA is a great example of community organisation, and the difference of opinions in that group is extreme, but they all have the same purpose and they all respect each other, which is incredible.
Please, anybody, if you've posted a question that I've missed, please just unmute and make sure you put that question to Catrina, but I think I've picked up most of them. Katrina, the only comment or question that I had, you spoke about green social work or eco-social work. And I suppose just a query, is that a specialty within that discipline, or is it that all social work practice now needs to sort of be considered through a lens of, you know, sort of environmental well-being, or is it a specialist area within social work more broadly?
I think both. Andy can, sorry, so both, just a minute.
Yeah.
Give me a minute. So it is a specialist area in that, I guess, a good example I can, it's like using feminist theory, like social workers are all examining structures of power, which is a feminist theory, but not all social workers would describe themselves as feminist. So, sure. So yeah, it's both. It's like, I guess some people would be more, consider themselves more eco-social work or green social workers, and it is like with the mandate from the AASW, it is every social worker needs to be applying this to their work now.
As part of that existing sort of paradigm. Yep.
Yep. Yes.
Yep. Great. Excellent. Somebody's going to contact you. They're doing a PhD in social science. So that's from Louise.
For sure, Louise. Would love to talk to you.
Excellent. Well, Catrina, you've done a fantastic job, and as has Lucy. We've enjoyed her contribution as well. So I'd invite anybody else to ask